Welcome, everybody, to Wager Talk Today. I'm Lawrence Presman. We got a wonderful show lined up for you guys. It's a Wednesday, and Ralph Michaels, like always, joins us today. He's going to look at the Golden State Warriors playing against the Atlanta Hawks. I was on Atlanta last game they played, cashed that ticket. Curious how Ralph is going to bet this game. He's also got a college football bet for us. Ole Miss -10 against Florida, and a chart about the NBA teams with no rest. Teddy Covers is my co-host. Teddy, how are you, my friend? I know you're having internet issues over there.
I am. We're efforting, Lawrence. We'll be ready in just a minute.
Okay, Teddy is efforting, everybody. I think that's a new word. Anyway, Ralph Michaels, how are you, man? What's going on? You have a wonderful birthday week?
I did. I appreciate everyone that was on board for the special. Hopefully we finish it strong. And Prez, I'm not talking NFL today, but I want to start this show with a nugget as we get into late November. Remember, guys, in the NFL, when we start getting bad weather in November and December, if you blindly bet every NFL game to the under where the winds were 15 miles per hour or more, you've covered 58% of those plays going back to 2018. So just a nugget for the NFL for the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's an important point, Ralph, because obviously weather is changing right now, and it does factor into your handicap. And I spoke about it on the NFL presidential address, which, by the way, 4,500 of you have already watched. 60 comments. I'm so appreciative of that, guys. But I mentioned in the NFL presidential address, make sure to check weather now moving forward. It is a crucial part of the handicap. Ralph, I'm just curious, though, with rain, do you think does rain help the under or the over? I've always argued back and forth on this because it's so much harder for the defenders, the cornerbacks and the safeties, to make their hip turns, and they don't know where the wide receiver is going. So I would think the wide receiver is going to be more open with rain than less.
Prez, I'm going to give you a clean divide on this. When it's on artificial turf, the turf gets slippery. The defenders have tougher times to handle. I like the over. When it's on grass and you start getting slowed down significantly because of sloppiness in the cuts, I like the under.
That makes a lot of sense. Ralph, let's get straight into our first game. Atlanta and Golden State. Both these teams have been playing to the over all year. Atlanta 11-4, Golden State 9-4. Golden State started the year wonderfully, 10-3 record, 9-4 ATS. They're playing against each other tonight. It is in Golden State, -8.5 for the favorite home team. How do you suggest we bet this game?
Let me start this section of our show by saying this Atlanta team has improved greatly in the last 7 games. Why? Murray actually got hurried, and Dyson Daniels came in, 6'7" guard. He has 44 steals his first 12 games. That is number 1 in the league. The guy really changes the way Atlanta plays, and I think you're going to start seeing Atlanta tend to some unders coming up. Because this guy, again, he has a 6 foot, 10.5-inch wingspan, and he's a guard at 6'7". So he is a difference maker, but I do like Golden State in this situation just because of what happened in recent events. Golden State went down to face the Clippers. They lost as a favorite. Atlanta started their road trip, and they upset the Sacramento Kings. Well, I look at Golden State, like you said, Prez, they're 9-4 against the spread, and they're coming off a loss. They've covered both games this year coming off a loss, and they've been very solid going back to last season after a straight-up loss, going 11-4, 73% against the spread. Atlanta, off that upset win, they're only 2-4 ATS off a win, and now they're in that situation. When I go to the database, teams off a loss as a favorite against teams off a win as a dog. When the team off a loss as a favorite is at home, those teams have gone 170 and 136, 56%. But if the opponent was also off an away game and it has at least a day of rest, that number jumps to 63%. One other issue I have with the Warriors that made this play not quite a client release, they've been sloppy their last two games. They averaged only 14.1 turnovers per game up until the last two games of the season, where they had back-to-back games with 19 turnovers in each. But it really wasn't the guards. I mean, Draymond Green had 6 in that Clippers loss. And finally, this is a negative as well, but Golden State. But again, the situation supersedes these negatives. Golden State is last in free throw shooting. They're shooting 69.7%. To give you perspective how bad that is, last year, the worst team in the NBA shot 74.5%. And again, Golden State's under 70%. That cost them the loss against the Clippers. They actually had more free throw attempts than the Clippers. In their last loss, they made 9 free throws. The Clippers made 16 free throws. They were -7 in free throws, hence the 3-point loss. But again, Golden State at home, off the loss in this role is a situational play for me.
So one thing we've seen from the Warriors this year, I'll call it an inability to extend margins or extend margins. We've certainly seen that over the course of the last couple of games. They were home favorites against Dallas, won that game by 3. Home favorites against Memphis, won that game by only 5. There was some funny business in the last minute or two of that contest. But are you worried at all that the Warriors aren't winning by margins right now or of late? Or is that a non-factor for you?
Yeah, Teddy, again, the Warriors are my top NBA play, but clearly that is in play here. Why? Because I just said the free throw percentage. When you have a favorite of this range and someone's going to try to shorten the game by hack-a-shacking you and you're making under 70%, they can cut into the lead. So I'm keeping my eye on Golden State. I still lean with them in this situation, but I do have my eye on Atlanta moving forward. They've been an excellent dog with that new defensive presence.
Ralph Michaels joining us, everyone. Ralph, before we get into the college football game, what do you have to promote?
I just have one play today. I passed in the NBA. I passed in the NHL. I have my first college basketball 4% this season. Check it out, WagerTalk.com. And I already have a couple college football plays loaded. So you sign up for a 3 or a 7-day package. Once we load those plays at WagerTalk, you get those games instantly. And you get notified via email immediately.
Also, quick mention, everybody. Today, we're running one of our most successful promotions. We do this from time to time. Everybody absolutely loves it. It's the Fill Your Cart sale. Basically, if you use the promo code THANKS20, that's THANKS20, you get 20% off anything that you put in your shopping cart. So if you want to play Ralph or me or Teddy or anybody else, you want to buy a long-term package, weekly, monthly, yearly, seasonal, whatever it may be, daily, you put it all in your shopping cart, use the promo code THANKS20, and you get 20% off of that entire shopping cart. Ralph, let's talk about this Ole Miss Florida game. Ole Miss 8-2 on the year, playing a 5-5 Florida team. And firstly, Ole Miss's defense, lights out. Just wanted to point that out. 2-8 to the under in their last 10 games. Here we have the road team -10 and a total of 55. My immediate reaction is 55 with an Ole Miss, with that Old Misty. Sounds like an underplay. I'm curious where you're going.
Well, Prez, just so you know, Ole Miss has the number 2 offense in the country, averaging 539.5 points per game. But you want to talk about a statistically dominant team. I often talk about the diffs, yard per game, yards per play, and point per game diffs, taking the offensive number minus the defensive number. This year in college football, Ole Miss is number 1 at plus 230 yards per game. In yards per play diff, Ole Miss is number 1 plus 3.22 yards per play. And points per game, they're number 2. They are outscoring their foes by 28 points per game. Now we look at Florida, and Florida played well. Again, they played LSU. They've been decent as a dog. They beat Kentucky at home. They beat LSU at home. They beat UCF at home. But again, those have been games that they haven't looked good. They've kept it close, and they've won the turnover battle in almost each of those upsets. Now we have them off an upset win against Ole Miss, off that big win against Georgia, but also off a bye. So I went to the database, and here's a couple situations. Teams like Florida that are a conference home dog of 10 or more, off a conference win since 2017, they're 48-87, 35.6%. Teams like Florida, now off a win, they have 5 wins. They know we need one more win to get the bowl eligibility. From game number 9 and later, teams with 5 wins looking to get that 6th win to become bowl eligible as a home dog since 2014, only 60 and 89 against the spread. That is 40.3%. And an Ole Miss angle here. Late season buys. I looked at game number 9 and later. When a team has a win percentage of 75% or higher, and they're an away favorite of 4 or more, they have covered 58% against the spread. And if the other team is off a home win, it's 75% against the spread. Ole Miss, 8-1 as an away favorite of 4 or more. The only game they did not cover as an away favorite of 4 or more with Kiffin as the coach was last year's Egg Bowl. They won 17-7, laying 10.5, so they only failed to cover by half a point. And finally, you want to look at explosive plays in this game. Ole Miss is number 19 in explosive plays, those of 20 yards or longer. Florida is number 128 in the country in allowing explosive plays. They get it done. Lastly, Florida can be a little wiped out here. They were on the field for 82 plays last game, and now they're playing a team, Ole Miss, who is top 20 as far as pace of plays, and Florida is number 128 in the number of plays their defense has played this year. That defense is getting worn out. They get exposed this week.
So it's great analysis, Ralph, really is. And I feel like I thought of my follow-up question early, and you kind of went through 8 other points that make it not that big of a factor. But the point spread is the great equalizer. And one thing we've seen pretty consistently is that the betting markets have undervalued Florida. Undervalued Florida to the tune of, what are they, 7-1 ATS their last 8. 6-1 ATS their last 7. That dates back to September, and they've been cashing in all kinds of roles as a dog against Georgia and Tennessee, as a favorite against Mississippi State. We saw, so we've seen the markets consistently undervalue the Gators. Does that concern you here? Aren't they behind Florida?
Again, Teddy, it's all part of it's all part of the wash, but I feel the Ole Miss side makes it stronger. Again, Kiffin has proven when he goes on the road and he's the better team. He's 8-1, and again, that one loss by half a point in the Egg Bowl, and I believe that was bad weather last Thanksgiving. So I am comfortable in this role, in this situation, and in fact, this is an actual 3% client release for me. So that shows you how strong I am on the Rebels.
I love when guys come on the show and give out a client play. Thanks so much, Ralph Michaels. Ralph, we've got a chart to talk about. NBA teams with no rest. I mean, I'm guessing they rested, but I understand what you're saying. Fill us in.
Well, we did the NHL last week, and if you didn't see that, make sure you go back and check back the archives for the last Wednesday's show. So I did it the exact same format as the NHL last week. On the left-hand side are home teams with no rest. To the right with the yellow are away teams with no rest. I broke the lines down between the threes, a favorite of 3.5 or more, a dog of 3 or more, and then on the bottom, you see a home team that was off a home win, home loss, away win, away loss. So, Teddy, you were shocked last week about the ROIs in NHL, and sometimes I don't put the ROIs in, but you had talked about the negatives with 30%. We had a couple over 30%. So these aren't quite to that level, but take a look. You have home teams with no rest. negative, 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 away, and then away teams with no rest. The middle row run guys a negative, but if you're an away favorite or away dog, it's been pretty much a break even. So my takeaway on this is take a look at home teams off a previous away loss all the way on the bottom left. That is a minus 25% ROI. And home teams with no rest with the lines between the threes, meaning you have a competitive foe, you're minus 20.2% ROI.
Yeah, the thing that really stands out to me about that chart, Ralph, and we look, leave it up there for a second because I got to point to it. Thank you. When you look at the teams off a win, right, the second of back-to-backs, and you won the first game, doesn't matter what role, home, away, those are 45%, 44%, 47%, 47%, consistent losing across point spread ranges. Does that stand out to you as well? We want to fade teams that won the first night of back-to-backs.
Yeah, it's a great point, Teddy, because, off losses are a motivating factor. So, it's something to look out. I actually have that marked now in my database that it pull up every time. So it keeps me aware of those situations every time that occurs. And I know it's easy to look if they have rest or not, but in the heart of December when you're trying to do everything, it's always great to have those marked. Or go in and mark the schedule in advance. Go in a week in advance if you don't want to use the database and start marking those situations to look if they're a fade. Not an automatic play for me, Teddy, but it's going to be tough to go against something that is minus 20% ROI.
Yeah, that's for sure. Ralph Michaels, everyone. Wow, Ralph, great work again today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Wednesday for the pre-Thanksgiving show. Teddy covers. We got Art DiCesare still to join us. Your big game breakdown. I'm going to do a daily presidential address on the LA Kings and the Buffalo Sabres. Before we get into that, last night could have been a monster for me, Teddy. I ended up breaking even, 2-2-1. I had the under in the Minnesota Wild game. It pushed with a minute to go in the game. And then I had under 2-2-2 in the Dallas Mavericks game. It ended 2-2-3. And it was a horrible loss. I don't know if it would make your bad beat segment, but man, I had 11 points to spare and under 2.5 minutes in a total blowout. And I ended up losing by 1. But I do want to tell everybody, guys, tonight is my first 4% play in basketball of the entire season. It is my first 4% play. As you all know, I freaking dominate basketball. Absolutely take names, own that sport. Been killing it. My college basketball and my NBA have been amazing. Tonight's 4% plays in NBA. I am on a 15-3 run in basketball 4% plays. This is my first of the season. So let's go. Enough, you guys. Titans, Natural 8, Michael, B-Daddy, Little Bull, Chris, Bill. Get your ass over to WagerTalk.com and bet my plays tonight. I'm about to break out, Teddy, and I said that 2 weeks ago and ended up going on a 17-3 run. Anyway, enough about me. What did bettors learn last night?
There's never enough to talk about you, Lawrence. And yes, I am actually going to reference that Mavs Pelicans under because I had the same bet, but I had under 223.5 for my clients. So we'll talk about that in just a minute.
Damn you.
So that's on you. And if you want to embarrass yourself on air, that's your opinion or that's your ability.
How's it?
I put out a bad number and lost by a hook.
So wait, no. You want to talk about me embarrassing myself on air? So tell me what I'm supposed to do. I handicapped the game. The line is 2-2-2. Am I then supposed to just not release it and just wait and hope and wait and hope? Hey, maybe it'll go up. Or it could go down. Or I handicapped it at 2-2-2 and put it in when that was the line. How did I embarrass myself, Teddy? Go ahead.
You lost a game by a point and my clients won by a half point.
That doesn't mean my clients lost. My clients probably won. But I don't appreciate you coming on here and saying I'm embarrassing myself trying to get the games up early for my clients so that they can bet it when I handicap it.
Well, I didn't mean
Slap
to
you
rile
upside
you up,
the head.
Lawrence.
Slap you
Let's
upside
talk
the
about what we
freaking
learned.
head.
Yeah, rah, 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 rah. All right. So Lawrence is under stress. It's a stressful time of year. And boy, if you were my client for the last, 4 days, it's been nothing but stress with the end games all weekend. I mean, Saturday I had one right side. I had Clemson Pitt under to start the day. Nebraska was a sweat down to the final play. North Carolina cover went back and forth in the final 2 minutes. New Mexico Wazoo went over the total with a touchdown on the last drive. I think there was 20 seconds left, maybe 30. Stress City. Sunday, 3-0 sweep, but stressful. Pittsburgh won by 2. That was a stressful game. Minnesota, just as stressful ATS. They gave Tennessee chance after chance. Buffalo wasn't a done deal till Josh Allen ran it in with 2 minutes left. Stress. Monday, Houston. I had the Rockets. They scored 2 points the last 4.5 minutes, blew a lead to the Bucks. No overtime, thank God. They only lost by 1. Cover. Sweat. Last night, I had the Celtics. Right side. What happens? Donovan Mitchell hits a 3 with 30 seconds to go, and suddenly the Cavs are fouling and Boston's missing free throws. And now it's a 5-point game. Can I get a push? Well, no, I get a meaningless putback at the buzzer off a wild 3-point attempt. The Celtics win by only 3. Stress. And then I had, Lawrence, as I wrote this up last night, Mavs Pelicans under 223.5. And Dallas didn't miss a shot, man. They scored 44 points in the first quarter. I was dead. 69 points in the second half, but at least New Orleans isn't scoring. And they get to 223 and dribble out. Line was 222.5 all day. The half point obviously really mattered. Enormous stress. Lots of tight games. I've been running pretty good. I've had more wins than losses in this group. But this is the key point from all of this. When the tight wins stack up, don't overreact. Feels good, but it doesn't mean you're a genius. When the tight losses stack up or bunch together, don't overreact. I've seen guys try to change their whole style or strategy because they lost a bunch of coin flips at the end of the game in recent weeks. It happens. That's normal variation. It feels shitty, but stay the course. Keep doing what you're doing, even if you have a handful of tight losses stacking up together. And Lawrence, that's what I learned last night. Back to you, my friend.
Okay, Teddy. Great. I'm so glad you learned that last night. Yay, Teddy. Anyway, just to add, yeah, after I lost that shitty play, I said the same thing, dude. I'm going to win a play like that. I'm going to win more than one play this year on some, meaningless free throw, bucket, foul, dunk, whatever at the end of a game. So, so be it. So, Teddy, you missed yesterday's show, and I want to clarify something. We spoke about food, and then I'm bringing Art DiCesare on. I mentioned that I love Indian food. It's my favorite food of all foods. And some people wrote, if Indian food was so good, why are there no Indian fast food restaurants all over the place? And then someone else said, yeah, like the Curry Hut. Why isn't there 1,000 Curry Huts? Firstly, that is so American. It's unbelievable. We don't judge food by how fast it gets onto your plate. And also, just for the record, I am unaware, and Teddy, maybe you can tell me, are there any fast food steakhouses around? Because under that theory, steak sucks because there's no fast food steakhouses anywhere. Go ahead.
You get a steak sandwich at a fast food place. I learned to love Indian food in Kenya when I lived in Kenya. And in Nairobi, Indian food is like fast food. Absolutely. Like you want something quick and good, you go get Indian food. So maybe not in this country, but in other countries, there is Indian fast food and it's tasty.
And someone mentioned that Italian food is better than Jewish food. Yeah, most things are better than Jewish food. I agree. Anyway, as far as Lebanese food, Titan's Lebanese food is the best on the planet. Lebanese food is the same as Jewish food. And I do love it. I love my shawarma. Teddy, Jersey Mike's opened up their first sub place in Canada down the road, and I'm going today. I'm going to have my first ever Jersey Mike sub. Guys, let me know which sub I should take. And also, schmuck, when the hell did you live in Kenya? I've known you for 30 years.
1988, 1987, 87 into 88. Long time ago.
Okay, well, we'll
In a
talk
land
off air.
far, far
Art
away.
DiCesare. Art DiCesare, what's your favorite food?
Well, I'm not going to shock anyone here, but with the last name DiCesare, I think you could take Italian food to the bank.
Really? Because I don't think every Italian necessarily says Italian food, Art. But I
Well, all right.
understand.
You want
I get it.
non-Italian food? Non-Italian food sushi. I love sushi.
That seems right. That's very typical of an Italian. You grow up with no flavor or spice, and then you end up liking sushi, no flavor or spice. So that seems completely appropriate. I love your beard, Art. You're looking good, man. Thanks for joining us.
I love being here, fellas. Appreciate you guys having me.
Art, before we go anywhere, Andy Lang releases dart plays to our clients, and he kicks freaking ass. Is this a thing in your sports book?
No.
Hell no.
We do not book darts. Now, over the pandemic, and I wasn't at the Westgate yet, I'm still working for Caesars, they were finding every which way to get content out there. So I'm sure they were booking darts at that point, but no darts anymore at the Westgate.
So what do you have obscure stuff? If people are looking for something random, like what's the most obscure stuff you have in your betting menu over at the Westgate, would you say?
Man, that's a great question. I mean, I'll say this, and it's not obscure because obviously it's the most popular sport in the world, but I feel, and when I look at the menus around town, we offer more soccer than anybody in town. Every soccer league that basically plays that's not like a Division II, we offer. I mean, you can go around town and even things like English Championship League, which is right below the EPL. There's a lot of places around town that don't offer it. We offer Belgian and Portuguese soccer and Netherlands and all that. So most places just offer like the big 4 or 5. We go pretty deep with our soccer. We offer basically up to 20 leagues in soccer betting.
So a good place to get down if you're in Las Vegas, the Westgate Superbook, and you want to bet some soccer. It's a good place to hang out. I was there, last week? The week before? Whenever it was, I was down at the Westgate. Of course, Art had the night off that night, figures. But always a good place to hang out, really is. Let's talk some action. It's the middle of the week. How'd you do last night in action? What are you seeing for tonight's plays? Anything in college football stand out for you for Wednesday?
Yeah, not bad. Last night was good. Kind of a break-even night. It wasn't not a ton of action and nothing to really speak of. But when you look at the games for today, tomorrow, and Friday, kind of the before Saturday stuff, Ohio, Toledo, we saw a lot of under money come in all week. Opened that total 47.5. We are now 45 on that game. So we've seen a lot of under money come in. We'll need the over in the game. Nothing really to speak of as far as Thursday goes. I believe there is only one Thursday game. But then once we get to Friday, UNLV, San Jose State. Obviously, UNLV very popular in town with the season they've had. We saw good sharp under money at 62.5. We're now 61. And the public is going to be on UNLV. They're going to lay 7. They're going to lay 7.5. We've been bouncing back and forth on that. They'll have money line stuff with UNLV. So if we can get San Jose State to cover outright or even win the game outright, that'll be a good start for us moving into the weekend.
And let's talk about the weekend for college football. Anything stand out to you in terms of where the action is flowing early/midweek? Pros, Joes, parlay card. Tell me where the money's flowing for college football. All right.
Absolutely. The public is on 3 kind of short games as far as the side goes. They're going to lay 2.5 or 3 with Colorado. They're going to lay 2.5 or 3 with Texas A&M at Auburn. Colorado's also on the road. They're at Kansas. And they're going to do it again like they did last week, and it was a good result for us. They're going to take the points with BYU. They did it last week. They laid it with BYU last week, 3 against Kansas. And they're going to take 3 this week against Arizona State. I don't think the public knows how good Arizona State is. And they're just going to look at BYU with the number and say, hey, this is a better team. We're going to take the points. The Sharps, they're on Ohio State. They laid 11.5. They laid 12.5. It's now 13.5. That's obviously the game of the week against Indiana. That number is probably more 14 or 14.5, but obviously a lot of places, including us, open low because of the perception of Indiana and knowing you were going to get probably a lot of Indiana money early at 14 or 14.5. So it kind of just worked that way. We might even get to that number of 14 or 14.5. They took a couple of service academies. Air Force +4 at Nevada, it's now 3. Army +16.5 got to as low as 14. It's now back to 14.5. That's against Notre Dame, but it's a neutral game. It's in Yankee Stadium, so keep that in mind. And they laid 9 with Ole Miss at Florida. That game is now 10. That is all sharp action.
Art DiCesare joining us, everybody. Art, just real quick, I got to shout out Robert, Chris, Justin, and Andrew. All 4 of you bought my NBA 4% play. Man, lots of love. Okay, Art, tomorrow night we got a football game. So I will be in the Bahamas watching this football game. I'll be at the Albany Resort if anybody wants to come down and visit. And I'm excited about that. Teddy will be doing the show with Steve Merrill. Pittsburgh, -3.5 here, a total of 36.5. That's a low total. I think this is a terrible spot for Pittsburgh, but based on the comments that I'm seeing in my NFL presidential address, it doesn't feel like anyone agrees with me, Art. This is a Pittsburgh team that just won a huge game against Baltimore, took the division, feeling good. This has got letdown written all over it. I'm curious what you're seeing, hearing, and what do you personally think about this game?
Prez, I think you're absolutely right. I line up with you in the thought process. Obviously, this is a short week. Pittsburgh now has to go on the road in the division. Obviously, the Browns are bad, but they just won their Super Bowl. And I know Pittsburgh's got a lot more to still play for. But when we opened that line at 4.5, we saw sharp money come in on Cleveland. That's why we're 3.5 now. The weather should be an issue. 20, 30-mile-an-hour winds. We had that total as high as 41. Got to as low as 36. We've gone back up to 37. So you've seen a 4 or 5 point move to the under because of the weather. And, you know, Pittsburgh plays an ugly style of game anyway and plays a lot of unders. So we'll be rooting probably for Pittsburgh in the game unless the public just comes in and floods Pittsburgh with money line stuff and they lay the 3.5. But right now, we need Pittsburgh and we need the over.
Let's talk about the NFL for Sunday, Art. What's going on at the Westgate? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What games on all the parlay cards? What games have the pros been pounding? NFL Sunday action from the Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas.
Sharps are on a handful of totals, Teddy. They took over in the Dolphins-Patriots game, 44.5. It's now 46. They took over in the Rams-Eagles game, 48. That hit as high as 50. It's now come back down to 49, but still a really good flood of over money, probably 70-30 to the over there. Same thing with the Ravens-Chargers game. Took over 49, now over 50. They laid 3.5 with Denver on the road in Vegas. That's now up to 5.5. They also took 7.5 with New England. New England's looked a little better. The quarterback's been okay. And, you know, Miami played, I don't know, they kind of were lackluster even in a big win last week against the Raiders. So taking 7.5, no surprise that the Sharps did that against Miami. Public is going to be on the Lions until probably, I don't know, we get to the Super Bowl. I mean, and the Lions will probably be in the Super Bowl. So they're going to lay 7.5. They're going to put the Lions in every teaser and every money line. And they took Green Bay as well. You know, we haven't seen, now that line has moved. You know, it's gone from 1.5 to 2.5. But it's not because we took sharp Green Bay money. That's just been the market moving for us. And the public's been on Green Bay. No one has wanted to take San Francisco yet because they've just been so bad these last couple of weeks.
So I want to ask about the Lions in particular. When it comes to liability, you know, we've seen these years where the books just get crushed. You know, the Rams are the one that everyone talks about to this day. The Giants, when the Giants beat the Patriots, there were, you know, big live underdogs that got fair bit of support, have cashed some difficult tickets for sports books. Are the Lions in that range now when it comes to your future book liability on Detroit? If Detroit wins the Super Bowl, does this have the feeling of a disaster for you guys?
You know what? Not really, Teddy. And it's weird. Like, everybody kind of, and not that the Lions were a surprise. I mean, they probably should have won the NFC Championship game last week or last year in San Francisco. They played good enough to win that game. They obviously came up a little short. So the Lions were obviously very popular in the offseason. Their number wasn't too high, and it's creeped down every week. I mean, it's just we can't make these numbers high enough week in and week out. And there's almost going to have to be a Lions tax at some point with these numbers. Obviously, maybe we have to go a point and a half higher to avoid teaser stuff. I mean, it's just that way. And it's always funny. The Chiefs still are our biggest liability in the Super Bowl pool. They still are. They have been that way. We opened the Chiefs, I think, 8. So, we saw a lot of people bet the Chiefs at, 8-1, 7-1, 6-1. So the Chiefs are still the team we want to avoid. But I think moving forward, people are going to forget the number and say, we don't care if the Lions are 4-1 to win the Super Bowl or 3-1. They're going to come in and bet it. So in time and in theory, Teddy, yes, it could add up and we could be in a negative spot with Detroit.
Art DiCesare joining us. We got a few more minutes with you, Art. And I got a couple of quick questions here. Firstly, MVP. I'm curious what bets you're taking. Josh Allen is the favorite by far at plus 150, give or take. But Jared Goff is plus 600. What am I missing here, Art? How is Jared Goff plus 600?
It's a great question, Prez. I mean, do you want to say he threw 5 interceptions, a game or two ago, and that hurt?
So what?
I'm with you, Prez. I'm with you. I do think
did they win that game?
They did win the game. There is a lot of media narrative, too, that goes into it. The media never talks about Goff. They talk about Allen. They talk about Lamar. And they talk about Allen that he's been in this discussion the last handful of years, and this is the year he should get his MVP. So I think that plays into it. I'm with you. I don't necessarily think Goff is the MVP, but I think he should be in that cluster with Allen and with Jackson. I don't disagree.
So, Art, I need to know before we get into NHL, what are you betting? What is Art DiCesare like? And then talk about some NHL bets for tonight that you might be seeing.
For college football, I like Troy. I'm taking Troy plus 11 at Louisiana. I think it's a little bit of a letdown for Louisiana, so give me Troy plus 11. Nothing really in the NFL has jumped out to me yet. When we look at the NHL, a couple of overnight things that have moved. Predators at the Kraken. We opened the Predators minus 125. That's gone up to minus 140. So we've seen good Predator action. And Carolina and Philadelphia, the Hurricanes and the Flyers. We had an overnight total of 6. We are now 6.5. So good over money has come in and pushed that total up half a goal.
And before we let you go, Art, of course, at ArtDice21 on Twitter, Arthur DiCesare, risk management supervisor over the Westgate. He's been with WagerTalk Today since the first week we started doing this show. A true friend of WagerTalk Today, and we appreciate his time and effort very, very much. Art, thank you. But before we let you go, at ArtDice21 on Twitter, on X, let's talk a little hoops for tonight. What are you seeing in terms of NBA sharp action? What are you seeing in terms of college hoops sharp action? Anything the public has fallen in love with? Wednesday night hoops.
Yeah, let's just run it through. We'll do a couple NBA, a couple of college. When we go to the NBA, Bucks and Bulls, a lot of over money. Open 237.5. We're now sitting 240. Suns took some money at home, plus 6. Now 4.5 against the Knicks. And the Magic, they were laying 2 on the road against the Clippers. That's now trickled up to 3.5. So those are all 3 sharp plays in the NBA. And in college hoop, Charleston laying 10.5. It's now 14. New Mexico State took some money as a dog, plus 16. That's now 14.5. And Grand Canyon also saw money, minus 15 to minus 17. Those are all sharp plays in college hoops. And never forget, this early in college hoop season, it's nothing but sharp play. There is no public play. So when you get to conference tournament after, conference play after the Super Bowl, you start to see the public come in. College basketball is the one sport we fight for 2 or 3 months with really no public support in there.
Arthur DiCesare from the Westgate. Oh, whoops, sorry, Lawrence. Was I doing that? Was you doing that? You close him. I'll close him now. There you go.
I don't
You
care.
can,
Go ahead.
you said another one. No, knock yourself out. You close them. You're so good,
Great.
Lawrence. You're so good at
Art,
closing,
yeah.
guys.
Woohoo! I get to close Art. Woohoo! Guys, hit that like button, please. Not enough likes on this show. And Art DiCesare taking time out of his day to join us. Art, what do you got to promote?
As always, guys, come down to the Westgate. Check us out. We still got a lot of great things going on, especially with our pricing. NBA minus 109, NFL minus 108, college football minus 109. Still got a really great promotion with the app going on. If you're a new user, you come in, you sign up, bet 100, get 100. And as always, you come down, you ask for me. I'm more than happy to pop out and give anyone a couple of minutes. I actually talked to a really great guy a couple of weeks ago, a guy named Paco. He was down there with Skeet, so it was really great. He loved all the stuff we do on Wednesdays. It was really great to meet someone who, appreciates what we do. I mean, you guys do it every day. I just come on once a week. So nothing more great than meeting fans. And yeah, obviously don't forget I go on with Kelly on Saturdays too with the college football stuff. So obviously always check that out, the last call stuff.
Awesome stuff. Art DiCesare, everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday, my brother. Teddy Covers! This is your last show with me until Tuesday. Celebrate and give us your big game breakdown.
Sure. Before I give the big game breakdown, I do want to give you guys one more shot. Fill Your Cart goes today until the clock hits midnight. You can take 20% off all daily play packages or all access passes, 1 day, 3 day, 7 day, all season. Whatever you can fill in your cart, take 20% off. Just use promo code THANKS20. Now let's talk about Texas A&M against Auburn. Looking at the WagerTalk free live odds screen. What are we seeing? Texas A&M still less than a field goal, minus 2.5, total 46.5, and it looks cheap, right? It did to me at first glance. It's after my powering numbers. It still looks cheap. There are some concerns for the road favorite here. I don't know if you saw the headline yesterday or the Mike Elko's Freudian slip trying to say we're focused on Auburn, and he said instead, we're focused on Texas when facing Auburn this week. Texas, who they face next week, and obviously that is as big a game as A&M will have all year. This one, maybe not. And we saw Texas A&M get blown out at South Carolina, their last blow game. They never sniffed a cover at Mississippi State in the road game before that, also as road chalk. Now, they did have an easy romp over New Mexico State last week after the bye week. And Connor Weigman is now seeing the mop-up duty appropriately. Marcel Reed has taken full control of the quarterback position. He's a dual threat, but he's thrown picks in back-to-back games. And you're not supposed to be throwing picks in 38-3 romps against New Mexico State. There are concerns for the road favorite here. Before I talk about Auburn, I want to talk about myself. Just a minute. TC69, that's your promo code for a 7-day all-access pass. You can get it right now. I'm running good on a 75% all-sports run over the last 3 days. And TC69 at checkout, again, 7-day all-access, no BS. You get the 5%. You get all of that included. TC69, 7-day all-access. And do me a solid. I'm not going to waste anyone's time. The likes matter. The follows matter. The comments matter. We appreciate them all. Thank you. Let's talk about Auburn for a minute. This is a team that has consistently underachieved in games like this one. Home field advantage, well, they lost at home to Vandy and Oklahoma and Arkansas and Cal. But it's a road loss that really stood out to me for this Auburn team. That, in my mind, defines their season. Auburn got all the breaks in the game at Missouri. They had a hot start. They had a special teams touchdown. They're up 17-3 in the third quarter. And you knew they were going to lose as soon as Missouri found their footing on offense and started to move the football. The body language was wrong. It's been wrong all year. The quarterback play hasn't been good enough. Flat out. Peyton Thorne had 5 interceptions and 5 touchdowns, no interceptions last week against the UL Monroe Warhawks. The previous 4 games against SEC defenses, 3 touchdowns. You know, the playmakers are wide receiver. Lambert Smith doesn't have a catch longer than 30 yards all year. He's a game breaker, but he hasn't, or since September, I should say. He's a game breaker. They haven't been able to get him the ball in space. These are problems for a team that has found ways to lose every close game they played, basically. Wise guy's going to tell you it's a trap. Auburn's got to win if they want bowl eligibility. Auburn ain't getting no bowl. They got Bama next week. And if it's a trap, consider me trapped. Short road talk, count me in. Texas A&M minus the spot is the only way I can look in this one. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez, with your daily presidential address.
Thank you, Teddy, and we'll see you on Tuesday. It's time for your daily presidential address. And let's take apart the Buffalo Sabres LA Kings game. Before we get into that, a real quick mention. It's Wednesday. Today is my first 4% hoops play of the season. 90% of my plays are 2% and 3% plays. This is a big bet. I'm on a 15-3 run in 4% hoops bets. It's an NBA play. I'm on a 12-3 run in 4% NBA bets. I'm also killing it in NBA anyway. I'm on a 9-3 run in my last 12 NBA bets. Guys, I'm begging you. I'm pleading with you. Last time I begged and pleaded, we crushed that play. Please play that 4% NBA play tonight. Okay, let's get into this game. So bottom line here, guys, is I really like the over in this game. If you've been following me, I want to be betting the over in the LA Kings games. They're only 7-9 so far this year to the over, but they have been going they've been going over a little more of late, but I do expect this team to actually start playing to the over more often. This is a team that lacks goaltending, lacks defense, and they have a lot of depth up front with a lot of scoring in all four lines. They are playing the Buffalo Sabres tonight, and this is a stone-cold over team. Buffalo is 10-5-3 to the over, and it makes total sense. Their goaltending and defense absolutely stinks. They just allowed 5, 3, and 7 goals, 15 goals against in their last 3 games. And that was against Philadelphia, St. Louis, and Montreal. So it's not like they were playing against scoring juggernauts, and they still can't stop anyone. They also score a lot, too. They just put up 2 against Philly, but before that, a 4 spot and a 5 spot against Montreal. And we know the LA Kings can score. We spoke about that briefly. They just put up 4 against Detroit. This line is only 5.5 at many books. There are some books with 6 and some books with 5.5. The 5.5 is minus 130. I love that bet. If you guys can find a 5.5 on this game, take the over. If you can find a 6, take the over as well. But I prefer 5.5 minus 130 than 6 at even money. So look for that bet, please. That's it. Buffalo Sabres, LA Kings over the total. Make sure to bet my 4% NBA play tonight. No more daily presidential addresses until next Tuesday. I'm going away. And if you guys know what happens when I go away, for some strange reason, all I do is win when I go away. I don't know why. It makes no sense, but that is a fact. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you all next Tuesday.